So, freedom of choice. This is the why and wherefore of the good, the bad, and the in between in the world. Really, because evil is there because it has the right to be there. Right? It has that free will choice. And God made us that way. So the good are good because they choose to be good. It's a free will choice, just like every other decision we make. Nobody can force us to make a decision. It's all us. So we're all responsible and stand on our own, stand or fall. And free will is the why the fall of man and the original sin. We chose to go against God's will, and we chose to eat the forbidden fruit and gain the knowledge of good and evil. And we've been paying ever since. It's been a bummer, a downer. I mean, just death and disease alone, that's enough right there. I mean, if humanity had another chance, I'll tell you what, don't walk toward a state where we never fell. We never committed an original sin. We never chose to defy God and rebel against him. Remember now, will we ever forget what it brought us on this earth? All the misery, all the death, all the destruction, all the disease, all the bad things that have ever just plagued humanity are not God's fault, but he had to give us free will choice. That's it. He had to. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been made in his image and likeness. He wasn't making automatons. He wasn't just making other animals, which go, of course, as we all know, largely just by instinct. I mean, we know there's some thinking primates. They say dolphins are super intelligent. Well, great. God's really cool. I mean, I'm not threatened by the idea. I mean, look at dogs. They're smart as hell. And these are sentient beings, too. Cats, felines. It's incredible. Birds. Look at how birds. I've had birds that could talk to you. But it's really cool universe, and God is really cool, and all the flora and fauna is really cool, but we have choice. We have something unique. Other creatures don't have to deal with this fallen state. Okay, at least in the sense that we do. They have to pay the price with the disease and death. I'm pretty certain that all got conflated at that point. This is why all the other creatures have to die too, even though they didn't sin. But it's all in mishmashed. I mean, this is dark power, satanic power. I believe this is where the whole predator and prey thing came from. I believe there's so many things, dramatic and profound differences from how God intended things to be for us and how they went because of free will choice. That's really what it comes down to. Something God couldn't take away from us. Otherwise, he wouldn't have achieved his basic goal of creating creatures in his own image and likeness with the potential that is unlimited, infinite, awesome potential. This is what he wants. He's expressing himself and experiencing himself through us. And we've got to make him proud of us. I mean, you want to make one proud, make it him. Glorify God and say thank you. And, let me be a fragrant aroma in your nostril, to use an analogy from Scripture. And, and not this loathsome stench, okay, that it's so easy to become as humans, to have our mind off course and off track. Not the things of this world, no, the worldly, carnal, temporal, fleshly things. No, I mean, you understand those things are alluring and they're compelling and they are vexing to the spirit. And we all know what it's like to fall into things that are really not good for our soul, for our spirit, for our heart, mind, for our essence, for who we are as human beings that are made in the image and likeness of God. Called, for big service, we've got big shoes to fill. We're created a little lower than the angels, and we've got to really try to affect change. So it's not about being right and wrong. I mean, you identify as a socialist, you identify as a capitalist. We'll come together as human beings, okay, that have a common interest. Okay, come together. If whatever you are, if you are a conservative or a liberal. I mean, it's not about being right. It's about being effective. So if you're certain that your point of view is right, then stick to it. Of course, I'm not telling anyone to abandon their beliefs, but listen to the other person and consider the possibility that they're right. and it'll soften one another's heart, and the conversation becomes one that could be effective. Okay, that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to affect change. We're not trying to, it's not about beating our chest and saying, being proud and saying I'm right and therefore you're wrong, nani nani, nanny nanny boo boo, whatever. Okay, it's not about that at all. Okay, no, no. No, we've got to, because remember, we're going to stand one on one before our owner, our God, and we're going to answer for why we prescribed to that belief system, why that is the route we took in our philosophy. Okay, why did we think that way? Okay, you could say, well, it was a whole group of people, a whole bunch of people that I love and respect that believe that way. And so, I mean, you've got the argument you've got to stand before God, and I've got the argument I've got for the way I believe. But fundamentally, I say, look, that when God is ruling over the affairs of men on earth, we have to be free. We have to be born free, okay? Period. Absolutely, universally free. And the implications of that are enormous. The differences between how it is now and how that scene would be are profound. Okay, it's mind-boggling. So it's very hard for any of us to really imagine and see it, but so we've got to make a conscious attempt. We've got to go to God, what would that look like? Would system break down? Would we really keep working? Or do we need somebody just to keep making things harder and harder and harder for us? It's like whipping us, okay? That nut, it keeps making it harder and harder to crack, right? That's the way it is. That bar just keeps getting harder and harder to reach. That's what currency debasement does by design. This is just a way to steal your wealth. This is what they've done, okay? And this is how people are oppressed. And this is a bad state of affairs, and a lot of people aren't willing to wake up to that fact, and, that's their problem. But, I don't know what to tell them. But, I can't be responsible for your beliefs. You didn't get it from me. Go to somebody else that believes how you believe. But I believe what I believe. I believe this planet belongs to all of us at birth, rightfully. And just, that statement alone, I know how radical it sounds. I know how off the wall it sounds. I know how bizarre it sounds because we've been trained, indoctrinated, programmed, conditioned to believe that way, that it's radical. But that, my friends, is exactly how it ought to be on planet Earth. And until it is, where none of us are going to know true happiness. And at the least I can do is just fight the good fight. And even if I lose, I've got to keep fighting. I've got to try as best I can to reach people so that they are understanding, they have that knowledge, that accompanying empowerment, and they're willing to go forth and to try to educate others and to win them over, not by saying, I'm right, you're wrong now. No, but by really trying to be effective and tapping into what God says, this is how to reach somebody. But that's how it works on an individual basis. One at a time. It just spreads. But, we've got to get it. We've got to get it. We've got to see chain reaction inflation in reverse. We've got to see chain reaction deflation. Like I pointed out, all they needed is one area we can't get away from, and in this case it's housing. And that's how the nations have been indebted. People have been indebted. That's how they got away with this. It was the big bonfire they started. And then there's all these spot fires. And that's why they say you understand inflation, right? Because, well, look what happened to housing costs. You understand why, it's going to cost you this for this service or this for this commodity or combination thereof. Right? When we all think we understand, but we don't ever question that we have any power over it, that we're tolerating it, and we're to blame, therefore, by accepting it and tolerating this crap without speaking out at least and objecting loudly. I mean, people are dying. You think this is just like, economic theory being debated about? No, man. You're going to stand before God. You're going to say, yeah, I guess my economic philosophy was killing people needlessly, unnecessarily. They were dying out on the street, and even though there was vacant hotel rooms, and you get what I'm saying? I mean, you stand before God with your beliefs, and I'll stand before God with my beliefs. Okay, but this is what